I like USC over Illinois.
It's hot out there, but let's blow them off the line of scrimmage. Headline, Los Angeles.
Live from the RamCave, I'm Joe Terosian, and this is RamView, the September 26, 2025 edition, brought to you by Kistler Law Firm. Injured in an auto accident? Need help? Got questions? Call Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. That's Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. And check out KistlerLawFirm.com. That's one word, KistlerLawFirm.com. Kistler Law, they've been fighting for you since 92. And by Temple City Auto Repair. Having some auto issues? Get yourself some John and Henry at TempleCityAutoRepair.com. All right, we're going to talk Rams and Indy. We're not going to talk about too much about Philly, Mr. USA expat. I totally get what you're saying, but we'll get into Rams Philly. We'll talk about the Super Bowl team I saw last night. At least I'm told it was a Super Bowl team. And then we'll break down what Week 4 looks like in and around the NFL. Brock Purdy is supposed to be back for the 49ers, but Jaden Daniels is not for the Taxkins. And that matters because we want the Falcons in even more disarray. Okay, let's start this off right at the top. It's positively Troy Aikman-like for me to say this, because if the obvious ever needs stating, you could always count on Troy Aikman to say it when he's broadcasting a game. But to sound like Troy Aikman, or running the risk of sounding like Troy Aikman, the Rams need to win this game. Okay, there we go. But a couple of actual thoughts have really banged in. One, as Ram fans, we've grown accustomed to slow starts, right? And we manage them. If you've been with us the last 2 years, the slow starts, you realize there was no panic from this end. No, my fancy phrase of the day, existential crisis, no serious doubting. You knew what was going on. In 2023, coming off 2022, everyone's just going, please, offensive line, stay healthy, right? And it was a young team coming together. We found out what we had in Kyren Williams. We found out who Puka Nacua was. We found out that Matthew Stafford wasn't finished. And so we took those early struggles and we understood it, and they ended up winning 10 games going to the playoffs. Last year in 2024, it was a young defense coming together. If you remember, all the missed tackles early, all the whiffs on some of those sacks and everything early on, that they put it together. And they're also dealing with a rash of injuries, and the Alec Jackson suspended for 2 games. Havenstein went down. Jonah Jackson didn't work out. Steve Avila went down, right? Puka Nacua went down. We lost JJ, John Johnson, early on. And so it was this whole idea that this team has to get healthy. Don't panic. The struggles were understood. And even within that panic, they stole the 49er game, which they needed to do, but they also gave away a couple games, like the Packer game they should have won, and the Chicago game, right? There were just games they should have won within all that framework. So you understood it. However, in 2025, with this roster the Rams have, a loss at home to the Colts is inexcusable. It can't happen. It just can't. Now, a win is always a win. Even if it's 13-10, you get the W and you have plenty to yell about, right? But a loss does create that existential crisis. A loss raises serious questions that maybe we misevaluated the team, because everyone's kind of starting to, fall in love with the Colts right now. And, no pun intended, hold your horses just a tiny bit. I like the Colts. I've liked their roster. We would say everyone thought if they need a quarterback, no one thought that quarterback would be Daniel Jones. And I don't know if everyone's 100% understanding. He's still Daniel Jones. I like Daniel Jones, but I like Daniel Jones about as much as I like Sam Darnold. And I'm just not going to put a lot of faith in him. It was right early in this offseason when the schedule was released to circle this game as a W. Indy has always had a good roster. They just didn't have a quarterback. And I think what we foresaw was them still trying to force feed Anthony Richardson. But then Daniel Jones came along, and he was always better than the KBM said he was. And he has been a surprise but we still need to sit back and look at their opponents before we get too crazy. Let's see who's here. Let's see. Oh, yeah, there you go. Some Julius Caesar. Nice work, Mr. USA Expat. Cry havoc and let slip the dogs of war. Yeah, I love it. Tribe, Steve Avila will be back versus the Colts. Yeah, I heard that. I heard he is back. I'm for him. And the Rams got to find out about this guy. He needs to finish the season out strong before we extend him. And I think at the beginning of his career, of his run, there was no hesitation about extending him. He looked like a guy that's going to be here for 10 years, but we do have to find out. Steve Ramirez, be careful, Joe. What do I need to be careful about, Steve? Tell me. What did I say? Let me know. Am I jinxing the Rams? Let me know. Steeler fan Rob, I heard the Colts put the Rams on upset alert. Yeah, okay. I heard Aaron Rodgers is not happy about his accommodations in Dublin. You got bigger fans out there, Steeler fan Rob. Geez nuts, welcome back. Haven't seen you for a while. This is the game we humble the Colts and get back on track. There you go. I agree. Steve Ramirez, I think it's a game the Rams should win Sunday. I don't know what the Colts are considering who they have played. Really, they should be 2-1, both wins against bad teams. Hey, Steve, man, if you're going to read my copy, come on the air with me, man. You're getting ahead of me. You're getting to my 5th point, and you're reading my copy. Good work. USA Expert, Colts D-backs trashing our fans. And they're without their key D-back this week. They're without Kenny Moore. Willie Bowen, good to have you, Willie. LA Rams should take their loss to the Philadelphia Eagles and put their anger on the Colts. Horns up. There you go. Okay, injuries right now. Everyone's reading my stuff. Questionable, Havenstein, Adams, Parkinson, Higbee. I think they're all ready to roll. I don't think there's any issues here. I am not overly excited. I mean, if we don't see him in the first half, I will be worried about Adams and Havenstein, but I don't think there's an issue here. McVay said he expects them to play. Colts, on the other hand, are without guard Matt Goncalves. Now, Goncalves was a hit in the 3rd round last year. He's the complement guard, the right guard to Quentin Nelson. They got him out of Pitt, and he had a really nice rookie year, right? And he's pretty solid. He's a guard the Seahawks would love to have, right? And but he's out, and so that affects, of course, their run game, their pass protection, everything. Cornerback Kenny Moore, a longtime veteran, he's out. And then so is wide receiver Alec Pierce, who's 6'4", not 6'4", I think he's 6'3", 211. Everyone's going to be measuring the size of wide receivers that the Rams face from here on out for the rest of the season. Colts victories, where Steve Ramirez got ahead of me. Dolphins suck. Okay, we got that figured out. Broncos have been disappointing. And the Colts should have lost that game. And the Titans suck. Okay, Sunday in SoFi should be a wake-up call for the Colts. They should find out what they really are. I don't think they're a bad team. I think they are capable of upsetting the Rams, but they shouldn't beat the Rams, not in SoFi. Goncalves is out. Kenny Moore is out. Alec Pierce is out. And here's the interesting about Alec Pierce. He's important because, they got Josh Downs. He's another receiver, but he's 5'9". And then there's Michael Pittman, who's 6'4", 223. But Michael Pittman is not A.J. Brown, right? A.J. Brown's a different animal. A.J. Brown's got a linebacker's body playing receiver. Michael Pittman's a little more linear and lengthwise. He looks like a wide receiver, and I don't think that's a problem, too much of a problem for our corners. You got to respect him. But Alec Pierce was interesting because it caused me to look deep there. Look at Adonai Mitchell. Adonai Mitchell, along with Worthy out of Texas, were the 2 number 1. Well, they were projected. Originally, Worthy was projected 2nd round, Xavier Worthy, and Adonai Mitchell was predicted even at one point in the top 20. In fact, there were some draft boards for the Rams going into last year's draft in 2024 that said, hey, man, grab Adonai Mitchell. And I remember thinking, yeah, I wouldn't mind Adonai Mitchell. But Adonai Mitchell is yet to have a breakout right now. He has not broken out. He was expected to do a lot of stuff. And here's the interesting thing about Adonai Mitchell. His college teammate, Jordan Whittington, each had 23 catches as rookies. Each has 4 catches this season. Whittington has 354 career receiving yards. Mitchell has 353, and neither has scored a touchdown. Adonai Mitchell was drafted 2nd round, 52nd overall. Jordan Whittington was drafted 6th round, 214th overall. And that's something really interesting to figure out, because I think people really thought Adonai Mitchell would be this fantastic complement to Michael Pittman. Looking at the Colts and Jonathan Taylor's really good. And he's had a really good start, and he's behind a pretty really good offensive line. But so is Saquon Barkley. Rams know how to handle running backs. And I have to believe, again, Chris Shula is going to make Daniel Jones beat them, which means they focus on stopping the run, and then they have to deal with the Rams pass rush. Now, if there's a player to think about that's a wild card there, Jonathan Taylor's good, Michael Pittman's good, Tyler Warren. Tight end Tyler Warren's gotten off to a really good start, and he is someone to definitely keep an eye on going forward. Let's see, USA expat with the poor pass rush, Colts. It's time to bring out Ferguson. I just hope, if Parkinson's doubtful, Higbee's got some issues. Maybe this is a game where Ferguson actually gets some meaningful snaps, right? We want to see, right? We want to see, again, we say in McSneed we trust. Overall, the Colts are capable of upsetting the Rams. I will break things, though. I didn't break anything in this Eagle game, but I will break things if the Rams lose this one. The Rams held serve the way they should have. They won their first 2 games, and literally everyone on the planet projected them to be 2-1 going into this game. But this is a game that's circled to win, and I don't care how well Daniel Jones is playing, and people are suddenly come to the realization the Colts are not a bad team, just without a trigger man. Well, they've got one who's doing pretty good the first month of the season, but they shouldn't beat the Rams, right? If the Rams had won in Philly last week, I'd be a little worried. I would be, because you could lose focus. You could have a letdown because you're getting ready to play the 49ers, who are getting back Brock Purdy this week. But the Rams were embarrassed. And I hope, like all of us, right, whenever we've played ball, when we get embarrassed, I don't know about a current generation, but when the testosterone was a little higher around the country here, you got angry when you lost. You didn't complain. You didn't say, oh, they're running up the score. You listened to your coach yell at you, and you went and did something about it. And I think there's a high testosterone count there in the locker room. So I think it's highly unlikely the Colts beat the Rams. And in fact, I like the Rams about 28-13. I'd like them by more, but I want to show some respect to the Colts. But I like the Rams 28-13 this Sunday, and them getting back on track. But all the Debbie Downers are going to be, they're going to be circling, right? They're going to be circling. Willie Bowen, show some love for Davis Allen. It's funny, Allen, man, I'm a little worried about him. He didn't score a touchdown last week, right? So it'll be curious, right? Parkinson, Higbee, Davis Allen, and Ferguson. I don't know. Yeah, I'm anxious to see it. I'm anxious to see if they run a jet sweep, right? If they run a jet sweep to Terrence Ferguson sometime in this game, you're seeing Gerald Everett 2.0, right? Because that's what I'm thinking Ferguson is to now. Maybe he develops more into a blocker than Everett did, but they used to run that jet sweep a little bit with Gerald Everett. Now I want to see that. I want to see if the Rams would actually run that for Ferguson just to get him going. Something to keep an eye on there. All right, let's see what else we got here. Let's see. USA Expat says 31-12 Rams, 28-13, 31-12. I'll take that USA Expat. Willie Bowen likes Expat's position. All right, I'm Joe Terosian, a sports writer for 21 years, still contributing to Mid-Valley Sports, not necessarily running anything over there, but just contributing. The great Tim Burns contributes. He does NFL notes and numbers. You can check that out there on a Pro Football Button. And so I do this show. My friends at Mid-Valley Sports, they're covering the Chargers. They're giddy. And I get to do RamView thanks to our sponsors at Kistler Law. And so we just want to say thank you to Kistler Law. And they are the best to go to if you have an issue in that area of auto injury. Please be sure to check them out. I also sell books. My books are on Amazon. Be sure to check out Game Day in the RamCave, which is a fictional account of a Rams-Packers NFC title game, which Steve Ramirez last week was kindly to point out, very possible this year. So check those out. Every time you buy a book, every time you patron out, you become a patron of one of our sponsors, especially Kistler Law, you help the show to stay on the air, and you help me in my day job. I pastor a really small church in Burbank called Burbank Faith Nazarene, and we're right here on YouTube at Burbank Faith Virtual, burbankfaithvirtual.com, Burbank Faith Virtual all across social media. And if you have any questions about that kind of stuff, feel free to contact me. Right now, again, we have no footprint at Spotify and iHeart, and right now we're having trouble loading up. We don't know what's changed, and so I'm not too sweating it too much. It's not like I'm abandoning an audience there, but keep an eye on that. Also, we did 2 fan views this week, which I basically do without the live forum answering questions and everything. It's about 10 minutes. I do it on Tuesday, Thursday. Fan view is the name of my old column that I used to write, and now we're just doing it in audio form. But you can check that out. I upload it right here. You guys could watch it. I've done it 2 ways. I recorded it on Facebook and downloaded it. I didn't like the way it looked. I recorded on my computer and uploaded it, and it took too long. And I'm just trying to find the perfect formula, and we're still figuring that out. So I do appreciate you guys that have clicked on. Let me know you're there. Leave a comment, leave a like, leave something there. But we're going to straighten out, we're going to straighten out some of the bugs, trying to figure that one out and get it right, because it's a lot of fun to do. Okay, let's see before we go back. Steve Ramirez, Steve Young had a good line today. He called this part of the season September preseason, also saying weeks 4 and 5, teams find out what they got. And this is week 4. There you go. Good call. I definitely don't think of the Texans game. I definitely think of the Texans game as the Rams preseason. I think if that game was played again, I think the Rams probably scored 28 points. They only scored 14, but if they played that game again with all the waters settled, I think the Rams win that by a greater margin. I think we saw this Ram team come to fruition a little bit there in the second half in Tennessee, and then in the first half, with the exception of red zone, against Philly. So again, I think this is a team that's going to come on all cylinders. And my last mention of Philly here, USA expat, is I remember saying, and I'm going to repeat it: win or lose, the Rams will win the game in Philly if they get out of there healthy. And they got out of there more than reasonably healthy. Nolan Smith didn't get out of there healthy. Nolan Smith for the Eagles is on the IR now. Rams got out of there healthy, and Philly exposed where the Rams need some help, right? Tougher, bigger help at corner on some of those bigger receivers, especially AJ Brown, and then some issues along that offensive line, because I think he answered it. I think we've answered it. Coleman Shelton's a guy. Coleman Shelton is not the dude, right? Big difference between me and the guy and the dude, and he is not the dude. Around the NFL and other places, mostly sticking to the NFL on this one, and we'll blend into our picks for Sunday. I saw the game last night, Seahawks, Cardinals. I made my notes, made some mental notes, got up this morning, started doing work around my office, and then I put on some sports talk, and I realized I didn't see the same game, because what I saw were 2 talented quarterbacks, but not great ones. What I saw was Sam Darnold flash a marvelous arm, mobility, and likability, and teammates liking him. What I saw was Kyler Murray, whose teammates to me just look like they're done with him. Because he inspires no one. He inspires no one. I still think Murray's first inclination is to look within, as opposed to Darnold, who probably is much more team-oriented, right? And look at that. That was a game that was right there. I know they had injuries. I know there was all sorts of things, but that's the game I saw. Kyler Murray, man, I think time's running out. What I saw was Marvin Harrison Jr., just 2 quarters, just a second half away from checking into rehab and therapy, because that kid was messed up. I had no real rooting interest other than them both beating the snot out of each other. But I will admit, when the kid caught the touchdown pass, I was happy for him. And I will say this: I can see everyone else now with the Rams going, "Oh my gosh, he's going to do what AJ Brown did to us," right? All the Ram fans. So that'll be a conversation we have. What I also saw was a Seahawks defense that everyone's raving about miss a lot of tackles. They missed a lot of tackles for a team that had Kyler Murray at quarterback, a team that had a non-developed still Marvin Harrison, a team that was playing without James Conner, and they nearly gave it away. This was a 20-6 game, and they needed a field goal on the last play to win it 23-20. And I'm being told today that Sam Darnold is a Hall of Fame quarterback or an all-pro quarterback, and that the Seahawks are going to win the Super Bowl or go to the Super Bowl, that they're legitimate contenders. Did you see the game? Did you remember who they were playing? They were playing the Cardinals, who were depleted. And here's the other one. He didn't even throw for 350 yards or anything because the Cardinals didn't even have their top 3 cornerbacks. Murphy Bunning's gone for the year. Will Johnson was out. I mean, what are we talking about here in terms of this guy being unbelievable? I just can't believe the game I saw and the game I'm being told I saw. Right now, I'm stunned. There's, Sam Darnold's got a team around him now and a receiver. He was with the Vikings last year. He had Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson. What are we talking about? I just don't know. I like Sam Darnold. I like his arm, but I didn't see it. And I looked at the Cardinals and the Seahawks, and it was easy for me to assess if the Rams are firing all cylinders or just playing close to capacity. They blow out these teams. They absolutely blow out. I like the Seahawks front line, but everything else is very mortal. Everything else is very mortal. And again, a front line going against the interior of the Rams offensive line, which outside of Kevin Dotson has not been spectacular or healthy. That could be an issue. I'm not saying they can't beat the Rams. I've argued that these teams in the NFC West are competitive, and so are the 49ers, because of division familiarity as well as much as anything else. And I could see the Rams losing 2 games within the division. I don't know to who, but, one would be a game that they lose and another one would be a game they give away. This is what the Rams do. But to declare the Seahawks a threat and a contender, if that Seahawks team played the Lions, maybe the Lions don't score 40 points, but the Lions are beating them. I was not overly impressed with that Seahawks team and the team that they were going against. So let's review who the Seahawks have beaten. First, they lost at home to Fog City. They lost to the 49ers at home. Darnold had a fumble. First game, okay, whatever. We'll give that to them. They won in Pittsburgh, but they didn't look great in Pittsburgh. And they had a fortunate play go their way, as Steeler fan Rob is apt to point out. They blew out the Saints. Pin a rose on their nose, right? They blew out the Saints. Okay. And they hung on against a depleted Cardinals team. What game did I see last night? I let you guys tell me, Joe, you got it all wrong. I'm happy to take that I got it all wrong, but I sure didn't get it at all. Steve Ramirez, Shelton is a Jag guy, just a guy. Okay. USA expat. I think Shelton is the teacher's pet. Yeah, Rams have those guys. Michael Negretti. Hola, Pastor Joe from the 559. All right. Is Kyler Murray a bust? Should the Rams trade for Richardson? Oh, I saw that Richardson thing. No, I wouldn't trade. I'd wait till he's released. I'd wait till he's released, or he costs me nothing more than a 6th or 7th. And then you're going to find out about the kid. One, I think you learn something about the kid is that he listens to family too much. Someone should have been in his ear saying, bro, you started 14 games in college. He could have easily just said, hey, I'm going to transfer out, right? I'm going to get out of here and go someplace else. The portal was around when he was at Florida, right? But the idea of coming to the NFL, yeah, and I understand the Colts thought they could do something, but the dude taps out in the 4th quarter against the Texans last year after he scrambles that he's tired. He's the starting quarterback. He might have all the ability, and we've seen his ability. He's got great ability, but he might not have the maturity to play this game. And I'd take a swing on him. I'd find out, bring him into camp, But look what Shane Steichen's done. Shane Steichen was good with Jalen Hurts. Shane Steichen had a nice game with, or a nice season with Carson Wentz. And right now he's getting stuff out of Danny Dimes that no one else has gotten. I don't think it was Carson Wentz when he was there, but you know what I'm saying is that Daniel Jones is getting clicks out of him. So if Anthony Richardson can't play for Shane Steichen, and he's got all the physical attributes that Shane Steichen wants, I certainly wouldn't give up a number 1 for him. Not in the least. I wouldn't give up a number 2. I wouldn't give up a number 3. I probably could be talked into a 5th, maybe, but boy, I just wouldn't. And he's got tons of talent. Is Kyler Murray a bust? No, he's not a bust. He is who we thought he was and not who the KBM tried to make him out to be. You know, he makes a couple of splash plays and he's a superstar. And people are telling me he's a superstar. And this is one of the bandwagons that Colin Cowherd has slithered off of. He was telling me a couple years ago that Kyler Murray's elite, and we knew he wasn't elite. And we also knew he didn't have all the chips. The chips being team first, the chips being, hey man, I'm gonna muscle through and rally my guys. We saw that, and now everyone else is just seeing that. But you know, when you're within the division, you know that early on. And I don't think he's a bust. Bust falls into Rich Campbell, Ryan Leaf, that kind of category there. Josh Rosen, but he's not great. He's good and he's super talented, but I wouldn't want him. Manuel Vasquez, Shelton's PFF pass blocking grade so far this year is 26, is unbelievably pathetic. And I know PFF isn't the be-all and all, but it's a decent indicator of a player performance. Yeah, it's a nice place to start. I think I saw they have him rated 22nd overall. Now, something I do point out, I know you guys know this. Forgive me if this sounds, if I'm high-roading you here. There are 32 starting centers, okay? So being ranked 22 means you're in the bottom tier, okay? And that's the guy the Bears couldn't wait to get rid of, and the Rams couldn't wait to sign and replace Bo Limmer with. On the flip side of that, I saw that Rob Havenstein is graded as the 32nd best tackle right now. That's left tackles and right tackles. And I think Alaric Jackson is 18th. But remember this, there are 64 starting tackles in the NFL, right? So that means that Rob Havenstein grading out right in the middle of the road, and Alaric Jackson is grading out in the upper echelon, the upper tier there. So 22 for a guard looks pretty good. 22 for a tackle looks pretty good. 22 for a center doesn't look so good. And I know you guys, I am anti Coleman Shelton. And I wasn't before, but I thought we were looking for an upgrade and we didn't get the upgrade. Thanks for sharing that, Manuel. Michael Negretti, Darnold is a better fit with the Vikings than the Sea Chickens. I thought Darnold looked pretty good last night. I did. I'm not trying to take away from Darnold. I like Darnold. If Darnold was the Rams' backup and Darnold was the bridge guy that could have come to the Rams, maybe step in, that would have been awesome, right? Wouldn't it be awesome if he was on the bench for the Rams next year and you could settle all that hash about going after a quarterback because you can go with Darnold for a couple of years? Yeah, I like Darnold. I think they keep saying, oh, he went to the Vikings last year and Kevin O'Connell made him great. But, they don't talk enough about, he spent that year on the bench in Frisco, literally the year on the bench in Frisco. And with Kyle Shanahan, who's good at certain things, not good at holding a lead in the fourth quarter in the Super Bowl, but he's good at a lot of things. And that was really healthy for him. And then he went to Minnesota and he balled out. But here's the funny thing. Week 18 of 2023, Darnold started for the 49ers, and he lost to who? He lost to the Rams. And then he lost twice last year to the Rams. Sam Darnold's no mystery to the Rams. That's why it's like, okay, I'm good, a little more mobile, a little bit faster, an amazing arm. I was marveling at his arm yesterday, but, he's a little bit of an upgrade from Geno Smith, but we know Sam Darnold, right? We know what's going to happen to Sam Darnold. And Did you see Gray Zabel getting blown up a little bit there by Dalvin Tomlinson at left guard? And it was supposed to be, oh, Gray Zabel, he's the new find. I'm not saying he's going to be bad, but I saw Gray Zabel getting blown up. Did you see Abe Lucas on the right side at right tackle getting beat? And he just got an extension. Did you see Charles Cross getting beat by Josh Sweat? Charles Cross is supposed to be a top 10 left tackle. And so everyone's telling me, oh, this Seahawks offensive line is better. It's better. It's better. Depleted Cardinals, no defensive backs, right? Maybe the Steelers, but they didn't look great against the Steelers, and the 49ers. I'm not counting the Saints. So, yeah, I like Sam Darnold, but, as the Wolf would say, let's not, get crazy just yet. Michael Negretti, Pastor Joe will see what the quarterback from Indiana is made of over the next couple of weeks. Absolutely. Steve Ramirez, will the Mets make the playoffs? Are you sticking it to me, Steve? Mets are a game up. As of today, they're a game up in the wild card. One game up on Cincy, 2 up on the Diamondbacks. So, yeah. And who do they get if they make it? They get Milwaukee. Milwaukee's going to be looking for some payback after last year. I had hopes. I'm a Met fan, but they needed to make a move for a pitcher at the deadline, and they didn't do it. I think they were wrapping some fantasy in that Sean Manaea was going to be that guy, and he just wasn't. All right, let's keep rolling on here. It was a fun game to watch. I never know why people say, it's a bad game. Every NFL game that's played for keeps is fun to watch, and I always feel like I learned something. So, but I did pick the Seahawks. I picked the Seahawks 20-10. And when it was 20-13, I felt like I was going to come out here and brag. And then, of course, that great Seattle defense, right? Anyway, Vikings at Steelers. Okay, Vikings beat the Bears, lost to the Falcons, and beat a Cincy team without Joe Burrow. Now, I'll take them over Pittsburgh, but what I'm being told and what I'm seeing about the Vikings, I'm told Kevin O'Connell is already a great coach. Okay, how about a couple more playoff wins? Or how about an advancement, a deep run into the playoffs? I just don't get it. I think they're better than Pittsburgh on the road. I'm going to take the Vikings. Aaron Rodgers upset. If the Steelers win, I'm not going to be surprised. But I think if the Steelers win, I think people got to do a little reassessment of the Vikings. But I'm taking the Vikings in this one. Taxkins at Falcons. Grudgingly and hesitantly, I'm taking the Taxkins on the road, but Marcus Mariota is starting, not Jaden Daniels. But we want disarray, right? We want Falcon disarray. We want the stock of that first round pick the Rams got from them to just keep climbing. Saints at Bills, of course, we're taking the Bills. My argument since the beginning of the week: don't get hurt. Don't get hurt. Don't look to pad stats. You sit Josh Allen midway through the third. You tell James Cook the same thing. You get those guys off the field once you got this game wrapped up. Browns at Lions. Everyone, couple of things here. I think Dan Campbell is so alpha that the KBM wants to see him fail, okay? Notice how quick Colin Cowherd was. Oh, see, he can't hire assistants. He did the same thing. And then they do that masterpiece there in Baltimore and kind of cause them to humble pie. But they want this narrative that Dan Campbell is a Neanderthal, and it's just not working. And now the Browns are getting some run because, hey, they did beat the Packers, who was already given the Super Bowl title, but they beat the Packers. And now there's this idea that the Browns can go into Detroit and do the same thing. I think this is another statement game for the Lions, and I think they know that. So I like them in this game. I really do. I like the Lions in this game. I like them by a couple of touchdowns. And then knowing that they beat the Browns by a couple of touchdowns is going to cause people to reassess what we're seeing in Green Bay, right? And maybe also reassess the long term for the Lions in 2025. Titans at Texans, I'm going to use my phrase of the day. A Houston loss becomes truly an existential crisis for Houston because now you're hearing people talk about C.J. Stroud. Again, if the Texans want to get rid of C.J. Stroud, I would give something up to get him. And these are the guys that spit the bit, trading Laramie Tunsil. They did not address their line properly. I don't know what they were thinking. Big mistakes here in Houston, big mistakes. They're going to beat the Titans. They're going to beat the Titans and get their first win. Panthers at Patriots. I can't take the Panthers. Asking me to believe in Bryce Young and the Panthers is like asking me to believe in man-made global warming. I'm just never going to buy it. I'm just not. I saw some conversation I got into with somebody over 10 years ago about sea levels rising, right? I'm just not going to buy it. And I just can't buy Bryce Young and the Panthers. So I'm going with the Patriots. My trust is invariable. Chargers at the Giants. Chargers are going to win, but a Charger blowout, a significant rout. Ooh, I don't know if they want to make a move on Dable as they just start the process there with Jackson Dart so soon, but a Chargers blowout will commence a Bolts bandwagon unlike anything seen since they came back to Los Angeles. You agree with me on that? People are going to really dive in there with the Chargers if it's a blowout. Eagles at Buccaneers. Wirfs and Goodwin are back, and Baker Mayfield is the sauce. I like Baker Mayfield. That guy's got a lot of grit. They lost Mike Evans, but now you got Godwin, Igwabuka, you got Bucky Irving, you got Rashad. I like the Buccaneers at home, and I think the Eagles are going to get a dose of reality because they've been living living by a thread these first 3 weeks of the season. Colts, Rams, I gave you my opinion. Jaguars at 49ers, Brock Purdy expected to play. I just don't believe in the 49ers. They can win this game, and I'm still not believing in the 49ers. When they beat the Rams on Thursday night in SoFi, then I'll worry about the 49ers, right? But as of right now, I'm not worried about the 49ers. And so I expect the Jaguars to go in there, and if the Jaguars can grow up a little bit, they should beat the 49ers. The Jaguars always find a way to just mess themselves over, right? They do. Ravens at Chiefs. I'm going to take KC in a sloppy game. But the way that KBM is salivating for the return of Xavier Worthy, you'd think he's Otis Taylor. Matabuke is gone. He's not playing again for the Ravens. So there's going to be a big donut in the middle. And everyone's talking about the return of the running back. And I think we talked about this on FanView, running back. Chiefs need a running back. Let's just remember this. Yeah, their offensive line's not great. They probably shouldn't have moved off of Thuney. But let's remember this. The Chiefs won back-to-back Super Bowls to Isaiah Pacheco, right? So I'm going to take the Chiefs at home in a sloppy game. Bears at Raiders. I don't want to take the Raiders. I just don't. But I'm taking them against the Bears on the road. Packers at Cowboys. You got to go Packers in that one. Jets, Dolphins. I want to root for the Jets, but I am going to root for the Jets, but I'm taking the Dolphins as Mike McDaniel staves off the unemployment line for another week. Bengals at Broncos. Broncos got to get it together. I'm not saying they'll have an existential crisis if they don't win, but there'll be some serious conversations if it doesn't work out. All right, great. We got through all of that. Manuel Vasquez, Big Rob, has been great since they drafted him in St. Louis, but I think he is on his last year, maybe two. So I'll take that 32nd rank. Yeah, he's in the last year of his contract. It's his 11th season. Does anyone remember who the Rams starting tackle was in 2013, 2014? You'll get a big one of these from me if you can name, without cheating, if you can tell me who the Rams starting right tackle was in 2013 and 2014. Let's see. Mets get the Dodgers. Ooh. Man, I'll be miserable to be around if the Mets can knock off the Dodgers. I have no expectation for the Mets, but if they win it, we're going to be back in a New York groove. Michael Negretti, if the Mets make the playoffs, they play the Dodgers. Thank you very much. ESG, if there's anything I hate about the football season this September, is the overreactions and the anointings, right? The anointings that happen. Everyone anoints people. Steve Ramirez, number one for CJ in a New York minute. Yeah, I think I would too, right? I think I would too. Manuel Vasquez, Rams 34, Colts 17. I'll buy that. I'll take that. Michael Negretti, Pastor Joe, what's your score in the Eric Dickerson Bowl? Are you making a reference to when I used to name all these games the certain bowl, right? Is that it? Like I would call Packers Cowboys the Micah Parsons Bowl or something like that, because I used to do that. The Jets Dolphins would be the Jay Fiedler Bowl, right? I haven't done that for a couple years. Yeah. The Eric Dickerson Bowl for the Rams Colts. Yeah, that's a good one there. No, I did not name that. That's good. Thank you for bringing that back. I used to do that a lot. My score is Rams 28-13. 28-13. I think we're all kind of in alignment there. USA expat, Irv Pankey. No, Irv Pankey, who ended up with the Colts. Boom. Irv Pankey was 1980 through 1990, and then he ended up with the Colts. No, sorry. Thank you for playing. We have some lovely parting gifts for you. We hit the 40-minute mark here on a Friday night. Let me get to this part here.
It was a stone group, my man.
All right. On this date, I'm sorry, no, not on this date. Tomorrow, since we're not on the air, 1991, the Rams waive actor Terry Crews. He appeared in 6 games for the Rams. He was re-signed in October and off and on through August of 1992. So Terry Crews, there you go. Also, and here's the answer, who was the Rams starting right tackle in 2013 and 2014 before Rob Havenstein came aboard in 2015? Joe Barksdale. Does anyone remember Joe Barksdale? On some bad offensive lines, Joe Barksdale was not horrible. He's probably Coleman Shelton of right tackles, right? Which Coleman Shelton's not horrible, but, he's not Rob Havenstein either, right? And neither was Joe Barksdale. But Joe Barksdale, 2013, 2014. In fact, I remember listening to some Ram talk when the Rams didn't re-sign him. People were stunned. And it's not like, it's not like this guy was Jackie Slater. It was just the Rams offensive line was so bad. There were no hits on that offensive line in those years. And Joe Barksdale was consistent at least. He had the job for 2 years, right? You got to remember, Jake Long came in and all these different guys came in and nothing ever seemed to work out. Let's see. Boom, 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 boom here. September 27th, 1970, Rams win in Buffalo, 19-0. David Ray, 4 field goals. Willie Ellison, 4-yard run. O.J. Simpson held to 24 yards on 14 carries. He had an 18-yard run, so 13 carries, 6 yards. And the Rams had 5 sacks. And Clancy Williams, who we just talked about in the last show, had 3 interceptions. And then we just keep pressing on. Boom, boom, boom. Nothing big here. Nothing big. And then, let's see, September 28th, 1979. This will be our Sunday. Rams signed Bill Bain. Bill Bain had been a bust. He was a second-round pick of the Packers in 75. He bounced around the league, and then he ended up playing 7 years for the Rams. Great contributor. Starts at left tackle for 2.5 seasons. He's the one that stepped in when Irv Pankey blew out his Achilles. I think it was his Achilles in 83. So wanted to get that mentioned in there. I always love to mention Bill Bain. All right, there we go. Let's take a look here. The Marshall Faulk Bowl. Man, isn't that amazing? Marshall Faulk, Eric Dickerson, 2 of the greatest running backs of all time, played for both the Rams and the Colts. Man, if you could find a third one in there, that would be pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. Manuel Vasquez, I might be wrong. Was it Roger Saffold? Saffold, I think, was on the line, but he wasn't at right tackle in those years. And eventually he found his home at guard. And I remember being a little put out after 2018. If you remember the Rams offensive line in 2018, I believe it was Havenstein, Saffold at left guard, John Sullivan at center. I'm blanking on right guard right now. And then at right tackle, it was Havenstein. Who was the right guard? Why am I blanking? But Sullivan, they didn't re-sign, and he retired. He gave us 2 good years, 17 and 18. He was a former Notre Dame guy. And then they didn't sign Saffold, and Saffold ended up going to Buffalo. And then 2019 was a disaster. If you remember, 2019 was just awful. And so yeah. It wasn't Roger Saffold. There we go. Let's see. Michael Negrete, Pastor Joe Adams is questionable with a hamstring injury. I think, he probably felt a little tightness a little bit there, and they just shut him down. He's a veteran. I'm not worried about it. Even McVay said he's expecting him to play. We'll see how it plays out, but I'm not worried about that one at all. Steve Ramirez, Rams Colts used to be the blue and white bowl. Okay, the Rams Colts, and again, I know Steve knows this. But Rams Colts, I think that was the old Coastal Division. Before the merger in the NFL, Rams and Colts were in the same division together. And they had some bloodbaths in those games because those were great Colt teams. And those George Allen teams, 67 through 69, were high-end teams. And so they had a serious rivalry going there for a while, but something to think about. Jamin Brown. Was Jamin Brown the starting right guard? Was he the starting right guard, or did he get cut mid-season? Dang, why am I blanking? That's pre-Austin Corbett, right? Austin Corbett wasn't the right guard that year, was he? I don't think he was. Anyway, thank you for that. Hey, question real quick. Did you guys see, I don't think I talked about it, did you see the Cardinals rivalry jerseys? I liked what they did with the Cardinal. I don't usually like those rivalry jersey business. Just stick to the regular. But it was almost like they had a red, an orange, and a magenta. And so does anyone remember the Southern California Sun of the World Football League? I thought that Cardinal jersey kind of resembled the Southern California Sun. I was ready for Tony Adams and J.K. McKay and Kermit Johnson and James McAllister and those guys to come out. Anthony Davis, Pat Hayden. You remember? I think Darryl LaMonica had a cup of coffee with the Southern California Sun. I actually watched those games. In the World Football League. But I thought it looked pretty good. Steve Ramirez didn't like the mud splatter. Yeah, at first I thought that was just splatter. I guess that was part of the jersey, right? I didn't realize that, unless I'm assuming what you're saying is wrong, but I thought I heard that was intentional. But didn't the colors look like the sun? Austin Blythe. Was it Austin Blythe at right guard? Because they moved him to center in 2019 and 2020. Was it Austin Blythe? Interesting. Yeah, I pride myself on knowing those things, and I'm drawing a blank right now. All right, guys, I think we're cool. I think we got it all in, unless you guys have anything else you want to share. And again, I don't think it affects the price of lettuce here, but sorry about the iHeart and Spotify, just having connection issues and uploading issues. And again, I don't have an audience there. There is zip audience after 3 years on those sites. Our audience is here. So if you are clicking on over there, I ask for patience. And then just be sure to check out FanView when we post it. And that's all about talking about any sports you guys want to talk about. That's I go about 10, 12 minutes just banging on it. Has anyone seen Barstool Sports? I was watching Breakfast Ball a little bit when I got up in the morning around 6, and they took it off, of course, and that was the replacement show for Skip's show. And that show talked football. I didn't mind that show. But that Barstool Sports, man, whoa, it's a tough watch. I don't know. Am I misreading something? Let me know, and I'll give it a reassessment from there. All right, guys, we've done it. We're here at the 50-minute mark. Manuel, Steve, Pastor Joe, who wins Jets, Dolphins? I'm rooting for the Jets, but the Dolphins are going to win. They're at home. I mean, if the Jets win there, it's going to be really ugly, right? Remember how they were booing in Arizona last night after the first half? And here's the thing. Does Tyreek Hill look like he's always giving you 4 quarters? Tyreek Hill looks like there are times he just checks out, right? Plus their offensive line is bad. The Jets will make it a game, I think, but I think ultimately they should win. But man, if they lose, oh man, if the Dolphins lose, right? And I don't know. I don't even think Justin Fields has been ruled back in yet. But if the Dolphins lose at home and it's bad, I think any loss right now to lose at home would really put Mike McDaniel in jeopardy, right? I think the only reason you'd keep him is just for out of spite, saying, now we're not going to fire him because you expect us to fire him. yeah, if the Dolphins lose, someone's getting fired. Yeah, he really is. So, and he'll find out where, I don't know, Nick Saban's coaching next, and he'll get on that staff and redeem himself and come back, get another job, and like Josh McDaniels whiff again, right? Yeah, there we go. Okay, all right, guys, I better let you go. Thanks for hanging out with me. I do appreciate it. Have a great night, a great Friday. We will be on post-game after the Rams with RamView wrap-up. Just quick thoughts right after Sunday's game, Sunday's win, Sunday's blowout against the Colts. All right, God bless, take care. Be sure to hit like, be sure to subscribe.